Welcome to Demond Does the Six Questions, where the same six questions can tell a unique story. I am your host, Demond, father of two, husband of one, and leader of this here Demodcast. And as the least famous WWE superstar of all time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you my next guest. He is a perpetual optimist slash habitual pessimist, that a Madame Tussaud of WWE2k, and just a guy who does stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Keith Maki.
Thank you very much. Thank you for gathering me here today to get through this thing we call life.
Oh, a fellow Prince fan.
Oh, absolutely.
Right on. How are you doing?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I am well. I'm an admirer of your skills with the creative character on the 2Ks, on the wrestling 2Ks.
Thank you. That's what kind of goes with the guy who does stuff. I heard once that it was said that for a person to call themselves an artist is a smug thing to do because it's not up to you. It's up to the viewer or the listener or whatever the person is that's taking it in. And so all you can really do is do stuff. And it's up to the other person to decide whether it's art or not. So when I heard that the first time, I messaged an artist friend of mine who really considers himself, a diehard artist. And of course he didn't like it, and he's like, everything you do, from the way you cook a meal, the way you comb your hair, everything is your art. I says, all right, I like that, but I think I'm gonna mess with this though. I'm gonna mess with this, the guy who does stuff. It felt like a broader category to me, you know what I mean? And everybody can be, a guy who does stuff, you know what I mean? I do stuff, you can do stuff. Buff Bagwell is the stuff. And I figured that's the way it goes.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I guess there are a couple other different ways, other ways to look at that. I like just doing stuff. It takes
Yeah,
some of the frou-frou off of it a little bit.
absolutely. Takes away the conscious applying of any kind of cliches. If you're an artist, that tends to be a little like a pretentious kind of thing. Sometimes if you make it to be one, you know what I mean? And it kind of goes where you can do kind of anything that's garbage and just be like, well, this is my art. You just must not get it. And then that leaves it to the other person then be like, all right, well, to me, it's not necessarily art, what I mean? Whereas another person actually, is always in the person in the eye beholder, if you will.
I'll be like, man, it look like some scribbles.
Right, right. Sometimes, but sometimes somebody else sees something in it, One of my favorites is MC Escher. Do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's what they told him once, and he was an artist. He says, "No, I'm not an artist. I'm a mathematician." And I says, "Okay, well, I'm not necessarily a mathematician, but I can definitely be a guy who does stuff."
Whatever name you put on it, you put out some cool stuff. So
Thank
I
you,
don't
thank you
care
very
what
much.
you call it. You can call yourself John Jingleheimer Schmidt. I'm a Jingleheimer Schmidt, and that's hey. So before we get into the six questions, where would you like to be found on the internet?
On social medias, on X, we are under Letterkenny Wrestling because we generally just post the Letterkenny stuff to there. And then on Instagram, I believe we're still under Soul Freedom 10, which is the name I absolutely cannot stand. But it was my wife put the name up there. It has something to do with, I'm assuming, a person that's not me because she's never told me what it means. And so I wanted to change it once, and it's like it kind of became a thing. And that's eventually how we end up becoming Letterkenny Wrestling on the other, because in between there, we were actually Cat from Ohio characters for a short period of time too. I says, we do a lot better if we just took out the confusion and called it Letterkenny Wrestling, and everybody knows, oh, okay, these are the guys that make the Letterkenny characters. As far as downloading the characters and finding them on WWE 2K24 or 2K23, you can find all of our Letterkenny stuff under hashtag Letterkenny or hashtag Shorzy. It'll take you to everything we've done. So, I understand with 2K24 coming out now, it's still pretty expensive. You know what I mean? As far as if you're buying a brand new copy now. But 2K23 has become a lot cheaper. Like you can get a copy for maybe $20, something like that, even less. and the server is still up, so you can still go get all of our stuff from 2K23 if you want to, play it a little cheaper. Now, in this new game, we consciously made an effort to make sure all of our characters had no downloadable content in them. It kills me when somebody in the initial, when we had Wayne out, there was something in there that you had to like buy an extra pack to get him. And we would have people telling us like, man, these, I bought the game and now I have to wait till next week to get this pack so I can get Wayne. And we hated that. So we changed that instantly. And from this point on, if you get any of our content or any of our, downloadable characters, there's no downloadable stuff on there. So if you have the game, you can get them. You don't have to buy the pack with, Pat McAfee or any of that kind of stuff on it. You know what I mean? You can get it right off the bat, no extra stuff.
That is awesome. That's very cool. That's very cool.
Thank you.
All right, Keith. Are you ready to answer the 6 questions?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Question number 1. When did you know you wanted to be the Tussauds of wrestling games?
We had always done them just for fun. We'd like put ourselves in the game with like the in-laws and whatnot like that. But when we became Letterkenny fans, I actually have really bad insomnia. So that leads to when I do fall asleep, I have really vivid dreams. And I happened to fall asleep while I was listening to a K. Trevor Wilson stand-up. And in there, I think I must have heard it just as I was drifting off. And he says, I look like a wrestler who's brought into town to lose to the more popular wrestler. And I thought, yeah, and something in that, it must have clicked. And in my dream, it was already there. We were using, and it was already Wayne in the game. And I was like, so I woke up, and that happens like quite a bit, and it'll actually probably come up later. And I thought, man, that's a great idea. So, I made Wayne and then had no intention of anybody ever seeing it other than us in our house. My wife was on a Facebook Letterkenny page, and she started posting them, and people started digging them. And then our friend from Letterkenny Memes saw them, and I guess saw them on Twitter at the time, and came and messaged us and says, there's people out here showing your stuff. They're not necessarily taking credit for it, but they're not necessarily not either. You know what I mean? And so maybe you guys should get on here and, let everybody know who you are and what you're doing. And so we ended up doing that, and it became pretty popular. Like in that era, it was really popular at the time. Like the cast was enjoying us. We actually got direct message from Mark Montefiore, the producer. Yeah, and he says, well, how far do you guys plan on taking these, these characters? This is amazing. And be like, yo, you're from Toledo? I love Toledo. I went and saw Bob Dylan at the Zoo Amphitheater. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I said, well, we'd love to do something with this, but this is a WWE game. This is not ours. And he says, oh, WWE owns this? And after that, it was like you could see the tumbleweeds going through afterwards. We never heard another word from that guy again. Never again. It's like, oh, okay. As soon as we found out. And that kind of happened a lot because over the years, our interaction with the cast has definitely tapered off quite a bit. There's still a good handful of them, and we love those guys, and we support, the shit out of everything they do and everything they're on. But the heat isn't quite the same. You know what I mean? And that's fine with me. At least not on the social media. You know what I mean? The characters themselves, they still download really well because last Friday I put up the first batch of characters. We put up 35 characters. There was Letterkenny characters, Shorzy characters, basically the greatest hits. You know what I mean? The ones I have to do over every year that people want. And then we ended up going from bronze to diamond overnight with their downloads. So that's, it's pretty good. Now, it's not like thousands and thousands of downloads. It's more like a couple of hundred. But, still, there must be people waiting for them. And if I don't make them, I get messages on the, the social media, be like, hey, are you going to do these again? Which was how I actually ended up meeting my buddy Scott Powers, who I'm a part of his Powers Point panel shows from time to time. They invite me back and we do like panel shows and discuss, fun shit that has nothing to do with like necessarily wrestling or Letterkenny. Be honest, we talked a little bit about Letterkenny the first time on there, and then that was it. Which is cool with me because like we only have so much connection with them. You know what I mean? Like I said, we love the cast, we love the show. It was hard to see it end, but we still got Shorzy, and so we're gonna keep doing this thing.
how far back do you go with creator wrestlers?
Probably from the time they started allowing you to do it. You know what I mean? At one point, we just made, like our work buddies, and we would get together and we would all do that. But I would always like make our work buddies as versions of like existing wrestlers. You know what I mean? So it'd be like, because you could only use at that time, what faces they gave you. It's not like now where they have the face capture where you can go in and just chisel it out nice. You know what I mean? And make everybody look as close to what they really look like as possible. So it's been a while, but we really didn't, honestly, I don't think got good at it until about maybe 2020. Because if you look back at that first batch of Letterkenny characters, man, they weren't that good. They weren't that good. I'll say that we put them up, and now I've always thought about doing a Throwback Thursday where you put up the first set and then put up what them same characters look like now, and be like, you guys love these when they look like this. Like, where are you at now? Now that these are as pristine as possible, in every measure to get every little tiny thing, and detail correct, you know what I mean, is there. Like, why is it not as big now as it was then? You know what I mean? As long as it's fun, though, right? And the Twitch streamers have a good time with it. God, I love those guys. That's, if you don't get it, I'm being sarcastic. You know what I mean? Yeah, here's my thing with them is, say you had a tree in your yard that grew apples, and all the rest of the people in your neighborhood had apple trees in their yard too, but yours was just a little nicer, a little better. And so you gave them away to everybody in the neighborhood. And then someday somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, you got any more of those apples?" Be like, "Oh, no, did you like them?" "Yeah, I did. I was taking them 2 streets over and selling them." That's kind of how I feel about the Twitch streamers.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
That's not cool at all.
Right. And I thought, it's not so much that I should have the problem with it. It's like, the Letterkenny people didn't necessarily say they wanted you to do that, and they're going to end up looking at us eventually. Be like, "Well, we'd prefer you didn't make this if these guys are going to go do this with it, But there's nothing I can do to stop them. That and the Reddit pages too that have used pics of our game characters to make like political commentary that we don't necessarily agree with. You know what I mean? It's like, even if we did agree with it, it's like, I didn't ask you to use that, and the Letterkenny people sure as hell didn't ask you to you know what I mean, to go ahead and speak for them. That's just wrong.
Yeah, that's the tough part about art, is once it leaves your control,
Yeah, it's not yours anymore.
it becomes the world's, and people sometimes do some unsavory stuff with it.
That's the best way to put it too.
Question number 2. What do you wish you had known when you first started out?
Now, first starting out in life, I guess I would wish that I knew to take money a little more seriously, and then take my time as far as rushing into things, as far as like going to bars and trying to meet with like women that I kind of now wish that I hadn't been with now that I'm with my wife. It's like, man, if I just would have met my wife when I was 16, oh, it would have been good and we wouldn't have had to gone through that. But I ended up, I didn't until I was like 25, 26. So I went through a lot of single years and stuff like that. As far as like when I first started out with doing the gaming and doing the social media stuff, would be to, not necessarily get hurt feelings from the silence, you know what I mean? Or definitely not trust everyone, you know what I mean, that comes out. And there's, like every so often I'd get a message, I get messages and like, "Hey, I'm so and so, the such and such, and we do this over here, and we love your characters, and we'd love it if you made us." And being that I'm, I make everybody, you know what I mean? I've made so many people that nobody's seen, you know what I mean? Just because they're like, "Man, we guys like, well, hey, what do you think about being in it?" It's not, it's for everybody, you know what I mean? And so I go ahead and I make these people's characters, and then they're like, "Oh, great. And I'd never heard of these people before," or whatever. And then they put it out and post it as, "Look what our fans do for us. These people love us so much." You know what I mean? It's like, how am I your fan? I don't even know who you are. You know what I mean?
I'm gobsmacked, befuddled,
It's common. It's common.
discombobulated.
There's people that I've had personal conversations with that it's like, "Man, this is really cool." And then publicly, they'll be like, "Hey, thanks for the support. You've been a great fan this whole time." So I got like this weird issue with the word fan. It's almost like the new F word to me. It feels so like diminishing. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah,
well, I'm not claiming like we're friends, like we're, when I was on How Are You Now, I actually says I don't see us exchanging Christmas cards or anything like that, which is funny because one year me and Patrick actually exchanged stuff in the mail. It's like, that's funny that I said we wouldn't do that because that's how it ended up happening. I don't know. It's just something to, like I said, I feel like it just reduces you to someone that can't do what they do. And it's like, that's not necessarily true. You know what I mean? It's just, you got a cool job. I like what I mean, I do. It's like, I am a fan, obviously, but it's the way it's projected. You know what I mean?
right. Especially when they came to you and said,
Absolutely.
"Hey, can you do this for me?" I mean,
Right.
it would have been easily squashed with, "Hey, thanks for making this for me. This is amazing."
Yeah.
Look,
And actually,
this is something that I don't know, man. That's weird.
if you look back far enough in the X, not that not that you're going to, but there was actually people that we were cool with that we tried to whatever that kind of tried to claim credit for the characters at one point. They made their play. This is when Jared Kizo was still on social media,
Mm.
and they're like, "Hey, Jared, I think we're the ones who influenced that wrestling episode, so you should come hang out with us." And whatever, and it's like to total silence. It's like, did you expect him to answer you? It's like, now you made this play out in public. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, we're kind of the ones who did that. It's like anybody with eyes just has to go back and through. And that's just, I don't know, man. It's a weird thing out there. The need for the attention and the whatnot on the socials. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's wow. That's
Yeah.
and it's easily
Hmm.
it's easily traced back too if you know.
Very easily, like very very easily. Yeah. And the thing is, if we was into this for attention, you know how easy it would be to make political videos with the orange guy with the hair and the guy that we have now. You know what I'm talking about? We make,
Mhm.
and we made those two having matches and whatnot. It doesn't even have to be a winner, just as long as they're beating on each other. That the politics people wouldn't go nuts for that stuff. I'm sure they would. Or like they were gonna let Zuckerberg and Elon Musk actually like get in there together. I don't know what that would have looked like.
Zuckerberg actually trains. He'd have dog walked Elon Musk.
Think so?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he actually trains, yeah, it's not.
Right. Right. Against a non-competitor or a non-practitioner, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so,
For
yeah,
sure.
he don't
Well,
want
you
that
saw what
smoke.
happened to CM Punk.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Here's the thing. They knew who the first kid that he fought, Mickey Gall, they knew who that kid was. They knew he was going to kill him. They knew he was going to destroy him. The second guy, I think they may be like, he's had some training. He might be able to do a little better with him. And that guy didn't do, he did better, but it was like they knew he wasn't gonna win. You know what I mean? They especially knew he wasn't gonna like put a finish on any of those guys. You know what I mean?
Oh no, I mean, Brock Lesnar it was and is a once in a generation
Right,
type athlete. Like
right,
he was going, he, Bobby Lashley, okay, maybe twice in a generation.
right,
But
right.
those are like the top 1% of our species talking about physical prowess. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
So, I
exactly.
mean, I got mad respect for Punk for trying it. I really
Oh,
do.
absolutely,
I really do. I
absolutely.
didn't think he
Yeah,
was going to win. Anybody who thought he was going to win was foolish because, I mean, he was in his late 30s, early 40s to get started. No, of course not. And
I
his
don't know.
body
See,
had
I
been
think
beat
his
up.
fans thought he was gonna win.
But I'm not even an MMA guy, and I know those are two very different disciplines. He got a couple fights in the UFC. Not many
Yeah,
people can
that
say
he
that.
did. That he did.
And he drew,
That he
and
did.
he,
Not there's people who's been doing it for years. Got 10-5 records and fought guys who are killers. And they're not there, but he got there. So yeah, anyway, you can do it.
and he figured out how to draw money doing it to get beat
That he
up
did.
twice. Man, I'm not
That
gonna
he
hate on him
did.
for it.
Get his ear half ripped off in the process.
Hope it didn't accelerate any brain damage or anything. I mean,
Mm.
wrestling and fighting are two brain damage sports for sure. So,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for
so,
sure.
so hopefully that doesn't accelerate any conditions because he had a rough early career, which is why he's going through the things he's going through now physically. Question number 3. What's your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant?
They sort of changed my favorite order. My favorite order normally would have been a place that I used to go since I was 14 years old. Used to be the Magic Wok until the Magic Wok franchised, and then they became the OK Wok because I think they stayed independent. But it's Chinese food, and my go-to dish is the almond boneless chicken. They call it ABC chicken, which is basically boneless chicken, rice, almonds, and gravy. Real simple. I'm not a big exotic eater. This is I really love another spot called Rudy's Hot Dogs, which have sent cans of their sauce off to various people in Canada and others, but they don't can their sauce anymore. So it's like they kind of took that away from me. So that's a bummer. I would say my favorite was definitely the OK Wok.
How'd you find out about this place?
It used to be in the closest shopping mall to my house, and they had like a food court in the middle. So they had like a Sbarro's Pizza and the Chick-fil-A, and it was always to me like it was a 4.99 dish when everything else was like a dollar. You know what I mean? This is in the early 90s. So
Mm-hmm.
3.99, 4.99 for something. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not paying that much. And then he let me try some one time. And he says, well, here, check it out. And so I tried it out and kind of been there ever since.
Question number 4. What are you curious about?
I guess in a more smarmy way, I'm kind of curious of why people want to torture themselves by texting politicians and whatnot on social media and stuff like that. More serious, what I'm curious about is I'm a huge music fan, more so than wrestling or MMA. We're huge MMA fans here too. So I'm always curious about what the next thing is. The future of music, the future of what's going to happen, who the next person I'm going to meet through this thing is. You know what I mean? Through doing these characters. Because honestly, what is it you say? Cool conversations with cool people or something to that extent?
Yeah. I do dope things with dope people.
Dope things, dope people, exactly. And that seems to be the theme for us too. I mean, even though I tend to be the one to take it all in, you know what I mean? But that's what I guess makes me curious is what's going to be the next thing? Up until I guess a year ago, I had only been on the How Are You Now podcast, and then I had done obviously the video stuff for the Disputed,
Mm-hmm.
but then like in the course of 6 months, like I've been on Powers 4 times, and then I've been on this one, so this is like six. I wouldn't have guessed this. Same thing. You never know, and then I end up getting hooked up with a bunch of Powers' wrestling buddies, and now we're making all their characters. I'm enjoying the heck out of that, man, because that's so cool. Because it's one thing spending a lot of time, making the famous folk, the actors, the whatever. Because you see, we make everybody, everything, and I plan on doing that again. With these guys, this is something they wanted and tried themselves. So when they see it, I mean, they seem to appreciate it a lot more, and they've all been really cool to me. So much so that when they had their last live event, they actually piped in a private feed just so I could watch it here in my living room. So
Nice.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I appreciate those guys for that. And so we're gonna try to hit one. They got one here in mid-May, so we're gonna see how that goes. And honestly, that's what makes me curious as far as how is this gonna go. I mean, what the next thing is gonna be? Who's the next person? What's the next? You know, I guess excursion we're gonna get into.
Question number 5. Is there anything I should have asked but didn't?
When I mentioned having the vivid dreams earlier, we had such a good year in 2019 that I decided at the end of the year that was going to be it for us. We were gonna call it a wrap. We made a girl a character that she had mentioned that she'd wanted to, and she'd come back and she said, "This is just one thing," but she come back and she says, "This is the greatest Christmas present I've ever gotten in my life." And but I cried, like I mean, we're talking Christmas Eve, and I'm just sitting there bawling and thinking, not only am I moved by this, but man, I really hope this is not true. You know what I mean? I really hope that somebody has done more for this kid than what I mean to do this. And then we put up the Workaholics guys, them, Adam Devine and Anders Holm. It's a show that was on Comedy Central. And then the main star of that, let me see, what was Adam Devine in? He's in a ton of stuff. He's in like movies with Robert De Niro. But anyway, they put it up on there. He had reposted it. Of course, he didn't tag us in it. He just put it up himself, and it got like 45,000 likes and like 4,000 comments or something crazy like that. And at that point, I thought, well, we're not going to beat this, so that's kind of a good time to call it a day, right? And so we were done, and we were into 2020, and the pandemic hit, and then it was one of them nights where I actually managed to get some sleep, and I had one of them crazy vivid dreams that I had, and I had a dream that a certain pop star genius, who I don't want to say his name right now, but I'll give you a hint. He is a genius, and he may or may not like fish sticks. I had a dream that he walked past me, and I was standing on my steps, and I says, "Hey, you're," and he says, "Yeah, I know who you are. You have to make the people." I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "You know what I mean." And I woke up, and that's what I took that as. I says, "Man, well, I guess I got to get back to, it's like, did this guy just tell me I need to make the people?" And so we started making them again, and the first thing we put up went big again, and actually we ended up meeting a different person from the Letterkenny cast that night, which we ended up becoming, I wouldn't say friends with, but every so often when the game comes out, they definitely start liking my posts again, if that says anything. They know their characters on the way. And so that's kind of like the reason why I still do this, you know what I mean? Because I figure, all right, well, we were out of this, and so now to me, it's more about making the people. You know what I mean? Having fun with it, making the people. And because the thought of anyone ever seeing this stuff and thinking, man, I wish they would make me, but I would never ask. That's like, that's not, I hate that. You know what I mean? I hate that. So feel free if anybody does hear this and you'd like to have, you know what I mean? Because you and I both have characters. You know what I mean? Actually, I might have to get a new face pick from you so I can do your character for the new game.
Okay.
And, and that's it. So that's what we're here to do this time.
That is that's fantastic. I wish I had a better.
Thank you.
I wish I had a better word for it. I don't. It's late, but it's really cool. I don't know if everybody feels like this, but it sounds like you do. So I'm going to share with you and the dozens of people who might listen that I feel like my best self when I'm giving, and giving of my talents in a way that most of my favorite ways are the ones that feel the best are the ones that people can't, that the person I'm giving to, they can't directly pay me back. They can't give me anything. It's just like, no, what can I do for you? Nothing. That the smile, like, that's real. That's not a cliche. Like, the thanks is enough. I don't need anything. I made some, it's something about helping somebody's day be better. There's something that's almost an easy thing for me to do. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Like, really?
And it's just good for the soul,
Right. You're like that really helped. Awesome. Like, I'm glad I could help. That's amazing, and that's right. And it's really cool that you have found a gift, and an unorthodox gift at that, to be able to give to people, and people are and you were going to do this anyway. You know what I mean? And now you have people like the lady who said, it's the best Christmas gift she ever had. Like, even if, whether it's true or not, she felt that way in the moment when she got it, like,
right.
I looked up Adam Devine because I knew that name. That was Bumper from Pitch Perfect.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
So shame on him for not putting you over. Ridiculous, I say.
Yeah, he could have better, huh? He could have done it better.
Sad. But that's really cool, and I hope you every chance you get a chance to own that, own that, because that's awesome. That's really cool.
Thank you, and I will.
Really cool. Question number 6: if you could create a new holiday, what would it commemorate?
What I came up with is actually something that I said. I couldn't even remember who I said it to, but it was something that when I was being a smartass. You know what I mean? But it really does tend to apply for, I guess, to commemorate maybe general just mindfulness. And it was something I said, like, I can see you waiting to give your hateful reply. How about you maybe don't? How about it's maybe don't day? And so that's what I call it. So, that's the day I would like to see would be maybe don't day. When it's just in a casual sense, you got that that quick response that, you know, you hateful comment to you want to give somebody back, even just a small thing. Think about like, maybe don't, maybe don't today. You know what I mean? You want to post that comment online, you know, maybe don't. You want to take that parking spot, you know what I mean? You want to not say thank you when somebody holds the door for you in public, you know what I mean? Any of those kind of things, just a general mindfulness and, you know, something to that degree.
I like that a lot.
Thank you.
What day would it be?
See, I thought about this and I thought, all right, well, maybe if I added up the letters and then the letters kind of, you know, they either fell on a different day, you know what I mean? It's like, well, this is a holiday already. So I guess it would be May 31st, maybe.
Okay.
You know, it'd be the last, it would have to be someday in May, right? Because it may, you know what I mean? May, maybe don't, you know what I mean? So maybe the last day of May,
I see.
maybe you don't, you know what I mean? Maybe you don't leave this, you know, maybe you don't be a cunt, basically. Sorry for the language, but you know what I mean? That's about the best way I think I can put it, you know?
Golly, maybe we could, you know, be a little bit nicer to each other and
In some way, you know what I mean? In some way. But, and I can also work towards yourself, you know what I mean? If you're going to tear yourself down, if you're going to, you know, abuse your own self, you know, that day, maybe don't that day either, you know? Same kind of thing.
that is
Same kind of
freaking
thing.
fantastic.
Hey, do you remember when I used to wish you happy Demande, but I would do it on like Tuesday because I thought Demande was every Monday, and I'd always miss it, and I'd come up and I'd text you, be like, "Man, I missed it again. Happy Demande, but I know it's Tuesday."
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was just like, nah, every Monday is Demande. Like that is great. Like that works so well.
Maybe I should just start stealing Mondays. I was just taking that one day a year just to bask in my demonness. But
Right.
maybe I
Well,
should just
why
take
not?
it
You know what I mean?
Monday.
It is the age of excess, you know?
You know, why not?
Take it all.
I grew up in the 80s. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So did I.
Fantastic. Any final words? Anything you would like to leave us with?
Thank you for having me on. This has been a great time. You know, I'm happy that you invited me.
Thank you for
And
coming
it's an
on.
honor because I've listened to, you know, several of the episodes, and you know, some of them I've definitely heard you got some guests that just kind of like to shine themselves up, but there's been the couple like the one with Brian Tan I really liked, and then the one with Evan MC Amazing. I like that one, and when I heard that one, I'm like, I think this is how, if you're gonna do a podcast, this is how it should be. It should just be like two guys talking, you know what I mean? And not necessarily just has to be two guys, but you know what I mean? Obviously you do a lot of the group ones. You know what I mean? Those are all fun like that. But I enjoyed just the fact that it was a conversation and it didn't feel so much like a interview and necessarily, you know what I mean? I definitely didn't want to come on here and be like, well, you know, since you got 5 more minutes, I'll tell you 2 more reasons why I'm great. You know. But I'm glad that we had a fun talk, man. This was awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. And keep the eye on the lookout. We're going to keep them characters coming, and we're going to make the people.
Thank you for tuning in once again to Demond Does. And if you could take just a quick second to dip on into where you downloaded this podcast app, where you get that sweet, sweet podcast action, and make sure you leave 5 stars, leave a review so more people can join the conversation. So, until next time, see it, hear it, speak it, live.